might have to be the one hosting the meeting. Does that impact your setup if I invite you to a meeting?
No, not at all.
Okay. Maybe I'll try that real quick if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Just
Sorry.
no, that's okay. That's all right. Yeah, I wasn't even live. I just realized that. But yeah, just I guess message me on Twitter or something like that.
Okay, I think I can send you your email and invite.
Oh, perfect.
I'll give it a whirl. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, YouTube has two odd types of. Oh yeah, Sarah's invited you to a meeting. Hold on.
Hold on.
Okay, so I'm not logged into my email in Windows, so I'm gonna just send it to myself. So YouTube has two ways of streaming. One is like a specific video, like it's tied to a specific video, and then one's like a generic live stream, I think.
Uh-huh.
It's really confusing, actually.
Yeah, there's quite a few. Hold on. I think I might have to leave this one really quick to create a new link.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
All right, sounds good.
Hopefully.
All right, bear with us. Give us just a moment. Trust me, setting up a YouTube live stream is really complicated. Anyways, how's everyone doing? I think I didn't realize I wasn't live, so I just clicked the live button. We'll figure it out, though. We will figure it out. Probably cut. Here, let's see. I have to figure out. Okay, there it is. I think I can join her thing here. Oh, I have to log in. Are you kidding me? I'm just going to type this in. Ridiculous. You can't see invites from... I think I'm just going to have to log in. Yeah, I'll do that. Let's go ahead and log into Gmail. Bum, bum. All right, well, I hope some people at least brought their questions. Really excited to bring Sarah on and just tackle these together. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, there it is. Join Zoom meeting. Launch Zoom. Leave and join. Join with video. Hey, there we go.
Hey, okay, perfect. I think it's all set now.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Are you, I actually just want to pull up your chat. So yeah, last time I did this live thing, I think I had like 10 people stop by, a lot of good questions. So hopefully people bring their questions, but
yeah.
I actually want to just, can I even pull up your chat? It doesn't like, when I go to your channel, it doesn't say you're live or anything.
Oh, I haven't gone live yet.
Oh.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, cool.
I'm live.
I'll go live then.
Okay. All right, we're figuring it out. Hey, Payne, Hamza, how you guys doing? Welcome. All right. I might steal you for 5 minutes after this because I have a YouTube question.
Sounds good.
All right. Hamza already starts with a question. All right, so let's give Sarah a minute to go ahead and go live and set up, and then we will go ahead and get started. Welcome, Ryan. Do you want to pull up my chat just so I'm sure they want to talk to you?
Yes, I can. I think I've got it up on my channel now as well.
Okay. And everyone, this is Sarah. I actually met her in Chicago when I wanted to grow my YouTube. She gave me really good advice on how to start my channel because she has a much larger channel than this. But this is kind of like her side developer channel. I'm really bad at taking advice, so I'm still like slowly applying some of it. But she has a lot of really good advice. I saw that you were actually getting into cryptocurrency. Is that right?
Yeah, that was actually how I got interested in tech in the first place. I was a Bitcoiner before I was a programmer at all, so I've been around.
That's awesome. All right. Okay, so are you all set up?
Yeah, should be good to go.
Okay, I'll see if I could see your chat. If you want, Hamza, we'll get to your question in just a second, but I think Payne had a question for you. Okay, you are live? Where do you even find like live streams or anything?
That's what I'm wondering too. I'm looking for yours as well.
It says something went wrong. Your chat.
There's a live tab.
It won't let me show you your live chat. Okay. Hey, Emily, how's it going? Bear with us just a few minutes. Technical difficulties. Yeah, it shows me live, but it does. It says something went wrong with your live chat. That's really weird.
Oh, weird. I can see it just posted in my live chat. Looks like I can see it showing up on my end.
Okay. Well, maybe
I don't know.
Read those questions to me. We'll do it that way. All right, let me. So if you go to youtube.com/DonTheDeveloper, like my main posted video, like my featured video, should be my live stream, and then you load that, and it should load my live chat. Homepage of channel. Hey, Emily. I had to find y'all's live via Sarah's channel. I don't know. I know Twitch. I don't know YouTube. All right.
Okay, I got your chat up, so.
Oh, awesome. Okay, cool. I wish I could get yours up. I'll keep refreshing it, I guess. Hopefully it'll load for me. Oh, there it is. Okay. Sweet. All right, we are ready. I'm just going to introduce you on my channel. Like I said, I met Sarah in Chicago. She gave me some really good YouTube advice. I don't even remember like how we met. I think you were on Twitter and you were trying to become a developer or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was through Twitter, and Don was kind enough to review my very first portfolio website, such as it was. So I think that was how we got connected.
Yeah, your portfolio changed quite a bit. Because
it has. It's been through a lot of phases.
Nice. Yeah, so I brought her on today, and just a fellow developer. She's going to be helping me answer some questions, and everyone that asked questions in the beginning, we'll definitely get to those. But yeah, I think I'm kind of ready just to dive into it and get started. What about you?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll just start off with Payne asks, what type of developer are you?
I am a full stack developer. I work right now mostly in Angular and in C# and .NET Core framework. I also have experience in the past working with React and Node and various different things. So just kind of, full stack web dev mostly.
Awesome. How do you like Angular?
I like it. At first I wasn't sure about it coming from a React background. I felt like there was a lot of boilerplate with Angular, but now I've just gotten used to it, I guess.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I think I started with Angular before I learned React, before I went to coding bootcamp. It's a full-fledged framework. It's a lot to pick up.
Yeah, there's a lot to it.
All right. So everyone, like I said, this is a live Q&A. If you're getting stuck, if you have blockers, if you're trying to become a developer, like this is the stream to ask us questions with. I know I go over a lot of coding boot camps, but feel free to ask us any web development related questions. But first question is, which programming language should I learn? How do you answer that when someone asks you that?
I pretty much always start with, it depends on what you want to do. Like there's different languages that work better for different stuff. So it's usually better to start with, I think, like what are you interested in building and kind of work back from there, I think.
How do you figure out what you're interested in building?
For me, it was, it came, like I said, I got interested in tech from doing crypto stuff. So for me, it was like knowing that I wanted to be a part of that world, and a lot of things in that industry are built using React, which was kind of what led me into the React path in the first place. So I guess, what makes you interested in tech, that's how I kind of decided anyway.
Okay. Yeah. So to really think back, like what even got you interested in tech? Because that's a a hard question to answer when you don't really know the person either, and that you get that question a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see. Just reading through everyone helping us out through technical issues. What coding boot camp did you both complete? For me, I completed Full Stack Academy in Chicago.
And I went to a boot camp through Northwestern University, also in Chicago.
How do you like your coding boot camp?
I had a pretty good experience at my coding boot camp. I know a lot of people have had really mixed experiences, it seems like. But I think I kind of went into it with just so much determination. Like I'm gonna figure this out. Like I'm gonna get something out of this. That I kind of got out what I put in, I guess, in a way. But I liked it. It was definitely not for the faint of heart. It was a big commitment for sure. But did you like yours?
Uh, yeah, I had a really similar experience. And like you said, I think it matters how you go into it. And I went into it, I mean, my commute was about 5 hours total each day. So I was determined. I just woke up, went to the coding boot camp, came home and slept. Sometimes I didn't have time for dinner. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you go, I don't suggest people do that. That's ridiculous. But I really enjoyed it because at least back then, it was kind of like it felt like a startup shop. It was one of the first programs in Chicago because they had just expanded. And I don't know, it just like, they were trying so hard to make it work and make it successful. Like the instructors just did a really good job of connecting with people. And, I have different thoughts of like what the coding boot camp has become, but my experience personally, it's been really good.
Yeah. I see someone asking, is 30 too old to learn or go to boot camp? And I've been getting a lot of a similar question to that recently. Am I too old? Am I too old to start? And I don't think so. I mean, there were people in my boot camp who were in their late 40s and 50s even, which I think they kind of had a unique opportunity based on the professional network that they already had built up through their current career, to kind of parlay that in a new direction. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I've noticed a lot of people have been asking me that question lately.
Yeah, that's a really good question. First of all, 30 is not old. I want people to stop saying that it's old, because I'm 30. I'm 31. So, no, but seriously, like you're not even close to the age where you need to start worrying about something like that. And even like as you grow older into like your 50s, still it's just going to be a few companies that might show a little bit of bias. And it does exist in our industry. It's not a good thing, but I think people worry about that too much because I reviewed a lot of coding boot camps, and you'll find like you get a lot of older people going to coding boot camps where it's like part-time and it's meant to like sync with your work. So if you really want to be surrounded by people and like get inspiration about people your age, like go to a part-time program that's like really friendly and try to works with people having full-time jobs and families, and you're going to see tons of people trying to get into this industry 40, 50 years old. So I think it just helps to see more people getting into the industry at that age.
Yeah, definitely.
For someone wanting to eventually break into game development, does it make sense to fund that passion with something more stable like web development, or is it even stable?
Ooh.
Do you want to answer this first or me?
I really go for it. I don't know much about the game development world, to be honest. I've got essentially no experience on that side of things.
Yeah, and I don't have a lot of experience. I know game developers, so I'm gonna share, something I've heard. But game development, I don't. First of all, I don't think web development's stable. I think people have this illusion that your position is stable, and I think people kind of get tricked into like, I don't know, I have a full-time salary position that's going to be more secure than a freelance position. It's going to be more secure than, all these other opportunities that I could take as a developer or contract positions. But, as we saw with COVID, stability isn't always promised. And so I think one thing to realize, whether you get into game development or web development, focus on your skills. Focus on constantly growing as a software engineer. And that includes whether it's game development or web development. That's what's going to be your stability. It doesn't matter like what your what you focus on. I would say with game development specifically, I see a lot more burnout in that industry. So while you might, I don't know, game development industry is like a really tough one to get into. You have to have a lot of grit, a lot of motivation and drive, and just to me they're kind of similar. And like if you want to have like a stable career, you need to like focus on your skills. You need to constantly focus on like building yourself up as a developer. Don't get comfortable in your position. If your job's getting too comfortable, work on personal projects on the side. So maybe that didn't really answer your question. I would just be careful about like seeing even web development as like a stable career.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, especially if you're working in like startup world. That my first job was at a early stage startup, and it was there one day, gone the next. Like the company just got liquidated out of nowhere. Like had those of us working there had no idea that there was, even any concern on the financial side of things. And just one afternoon, they were like, "You can all leave." So you never know what's gonna happen.
You don't. That's scary, isn't it? Like you don't even think it's going to happen to you, but
Yeah,
it happens so
crazy.
quickly. All right, you pick the next question.
Well, I've been getting some questions on Instagram. I did a Q&A recently, and several people were asking me about um, kind of a comparison between contract work and freelance development versus working full time for someone else. And I know that semi recently you've kind of branched out into fully working for yourself, and I'm kind of curious to hear how that's been like, how you like that, how you think it compares, and like how you've been able to set up your schedule and stuff. Because obviously I'm working full time for a tech company. I do contract work here and there on the side, but I was kind of curious to know on the full time working for yourself side of things, how you feel like that compares, and if you have any advice there for people.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I suck at setting my own schedule. I suck at like I found out like my self discipline and my self drive isn't as good as I thought it was. Like if I'm working for a company, I can do a really good job, and I pick things up really quickly. And I feel like I pretty much thrive in all the companies, at least that I've worked at as a developer. Of course, I made mistakes, and I've had to learn a few things. But when you do it on your own, there's just so much to learn. I've had to learn way more than when I had to become a software engineer. But it wasn't like I've had to learn marketing. I've had to learn sales. I'm really, really bad at sales. I'm really bad at managing my finances. I'm probably going to talk to a financial advisor when I do my taxes. She's probably going to tell me I've done everything wrong. I just like, there's so much I am so bad at. It's with being kind of like an entrepreneur that I know I'm going to be growing in that for the next like 5 years. It's just tough. But like the hardest part about it, first of all, it's free. Like it doesn't matter if I put like 12-hour days in, I don't feel burned out. I'm building up like my own dream. I'm not building up another product. I'm not building up some other CEO's dream where he's earning way more than I am and he's just giving me
Yeah,
a small slice of the pie. And because of that, I feel like no matter how many mistakes I make, I can wake up the next day and still feel motivated. I don't see losses as much as if I was working at a company. But the
that's
hardest
awesome.
thing, but this is like, maybe this is discouraging and maybe you don't want to share this. The hardest thing is my habits. Like most of my energy and my time has been spent towards like all my bad habits that were kind of like hidden away, and I didn't have to worry about it when I had some other, manager telling me what to do. Like all these bad habits that I kind of just stored away, I'm having to dig back up and fix and build all these new better habits. And that's probably one of the hardest things I've had to do with my
Yeah,
career.
that's interesting. I know even just with the work that I do and with my business on YouTube and stuff, like the taxes part of things gets really hairy. So I totally feel you on that.
Yeah, I mean, you've been an entrepreneur for quite a while and then you became a developer, right?
Yeah, yeah. And my fiance currently works full time in our business now too. So I definitely have still have a lot of that whole, running your own thing going on. And it's definitely a unique set of challenges for sure.
Yeah, I saw the marriage proposal. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
You proposed to her, right?
I did, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
good for you.
Thanks.
Uh, let's see. I spotted a question. Oh, I decided to self-teach for a web developer. Currently finished HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Have a couple of potential projects on mind for a future portfolio. When should I start to find a mentor?
Hmm.
That's a really good question.
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess like I didn't really have a mentor per se when I started like applying places and stuff like that. I think like once I got into jobs, like the more senior people at the job kind of became mentors for me as far as like coaching me and developing my skills and stuff like that. Um, I think you do mentoring, right? And kind of coaching sessions with people, so you might have some good insight on that too.
Yeah, I appreciate the soft sale on that. Yeah, I do. I do private mentorship. But, that's a hard question to answer because I think I'm going to throw it back at you, Sarah. If you didn't go to a coding boot camp, where do you feel like you would have, like, at what stage would you have most benefited from a mentor?
I guess probably, I don't know. It's hard to say. I feel like if I hadn't gone to a boot camp and I just attempted to kind of go the self-taught route, I would have needed a mentor pretty early on. I feel like I would have gotten stuck. And some people are really talented and just being able to find free online resources and like completely run with it. But I think, and now that I've been in the industry a while, I'm much better at self-teaching, but having no programming experience at all, I think I would have struggled to understand even the right things to Google and how to read documentation effectively and all of that. I think I would have needed to get one as soon as possible.
I think that's so. I think I have an answer for you, thanks to Sarah. I really think it's better to get one as early as possible. And it's going to be a little bit more frequently in the beginning. And then eventually, like a good mentor is pretty much going to force you to space those sessions out because the idea is like the more like it's really hard to get set on the right track in the beginning, but ultimately like you want to learn how to learn and like what you want to learn how to like figure out the direction. And once you start doing that, that's when you start parting with a mentor. Like it really, in my opinion, should just like get you started. It's why I don't offer like 3 months, 6 months coaching sessions. I just say, hey, hop in. And I'll like, this is where I'm a bad salesman. I'm like, what I really try to do is try to get you not to, book like 5 different sessions with me. Let's just do one. Let's get you on track. And like, that's the type of sessions I do. You're going to have other like coaches or whatever you want to call them. That's like, I don't know. Everyone has different business models, but I think it's going to be more often in the beginning and later on, you're going to part ways with your mentor and you should kind of be going in the right direction. That's how I see it.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
No, that was that. Let me know if I miss a question. If so, where can I find one? Oh, where can you find one during the pandemic? Yeah, where do you find mentors?
That's always kind of what I don't really know what to tell people. I mean, it seems like a lot of people, or at least more people, are starting to kind of offer like coaching and mentorship sessions, like people on YouTube and I guess influencers of sorts, that maybe would be an option. But it's sort of like, yeah, I guess that's kind of part of what you're paying for with a boot camp or a school or whatever, is having that readily available. So it's kind of tough to just point to, here's a like free community that can really give you good, reliable advice.
Yeah, you really have to dig with that. Like in Chicago, there's like a Python mentorship group. I would maybe go to your local meetups and ask, but yeah, I don't have a straight answer for you. I think you're just gonna have to dig. That's a really hard thing to find.
Yeah, it is. I know like it's out there. At my current company, we have one of my coworkers. He was a teacher, like a high school teacher, and decided over the summer break one year that he wanted to get into web development. And he ended up just working as an intern that whole summer with my company, and ultimately just went on to work for them and got a job there. So they basically just took him on with no experience and just kind of taught him everything and mentored him into a developer. So those opportunities definitely exist if you can really dig for them. But yeah, I agree. It would probably take some time to find the right fit, I think.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. I wish I had that situation. Dang.
Right.
You guys make a great team. Must be a Chicago vibe. Thanks. Maybe it is a Chicago thing. I was
someone. Sorry. Someone pointed out. I see that in my chat that said Stack Overflow is a great self-learning resource, which I think is definitely true. If you're a junior and you don't know about Stack Overflow yet, that can definitely help you resolve some of your bugs for sure.
Yeah, I've been on Stack Overflow more times than I can count. I get really frustrated when I finally find like another person asking the same like specific question and no one's answered it. I hate when I find Stack Overflow posts like that.
Yeah, that's the worst.
I was unsure about boot camps, but found out there's a local nonprofit boot camp program in my city, New Orleans, at half the cost of other boot camps. I signed up and have orientation on Monday. Awesome. Good luck with that.
Congrats. Yeah.
What was you all's first jobs out of a boot camp school? You want to talk about your first job?
Yeah. I about a month after my boot camp, I started as an intern. I actually secured the internship while I was still in the boot camp. I went into boot camp with like I didn't have much money at the time that I entered the boot camp, and I was like, I don't have a choice but to like make this work out. Like I have to get something out of this. And so I was pounding the pavement right from the start, like making connections and on social media and stuff. And I ended up connecting with someone on Twitter who was involved with Northwestern University and who also happened to be the CEO of a blockchain startup. And I met with him for coffee, and he offered me a summer internship with his company. So I knew that was about halfway through my boot camp. So I knew through the second half of the boot camp that I had somewhere that I was going. So I didn't have to do kind of the whole like mad applying process that a lot of people did. But I went, so then, yeah, after graduation, I went straight into that. And it was, that job was working mostly in React and Node. And we were building a platform for crypto trading data analytics at chain level. So it was pretty fun and interesting stuff, and definitely the whole startup vibe, and just it was fun office in downtown Chicago, like sometimes working crazy hours, like the whole startup thing, which was super fun and a really good experience. I definitely feel fortunate that I had such a good opportunity like straight out of a boot camp without having to worry too much about it.
Did that internship pan out into like a full-time position?
Yeah, after I interned there for a couple months, then I moved up to full-time, and did that until, like I mentioned earlier, the company was liquidated abruptly. So then I had to do the interview process for real.
Right. Well, wow, that's still really good experience. I mean, yeah, a lot of people coming out of coding boot camps. I'm just thinking, like, how do you land an internship? I feel like you're someone that's really good with networking, because a lot of people have a hard time landing internships in general if they don't have like a college degree. Do you feel like a lot of companies just hire for internships for people that are in college, or do you feel like a lot of people companies pull from coding boot camps as well?
I do see a lot of job postings that list this internship is specifically for like a computer science, current university student in computer science or whatever. Um, but I don't know how much you might have some luck if you applied to those as a coding bootcamp student that was able to show, a decent portfolio. I don't know. But it seems like internships can kind of be a decent option. Like I usually encourage people who are really like nervous about getting a job after boot camp, which I can definitely relate to. If you're in a position in life where you're able to take an internship for a while rather than a salary job, like you might find it easier to get in at the intern level rather than trying to immediately apply for like a full-time role just cold turkey with only your boot camp experience. If you can weasel your way in, maybe that's maybe that's another option to look at.
How do you feel about unpaid internships?
I don't like it. I get that people got to get experience somehow, and if you got to if you got to do that, or you found a good opportunity, like you got to do it. But from the company's perspective, I really think you should always pay your people.
Okay. I just want to ask you. That's like a hot topic a lot of people ask about.
Yeah, for sure.
For me, first position, it was at a startup, but it was like 100 people. It was like a healthcare startup. My previous boss, I still play video games with him, but he found me on Twitch. And yeah, well, no, I applied and then he kind of stalked me on Twitch. He would just like watch my streams and everything because I did include it in the cover letter. He didn't stalk me. He went to the link that I gave him on the cover letter and he looked at my streams. But like the funny thing about it is, we created this relationship. We were kind of just two nerdy guys that played video games, and like it's so silly about like the things that you can bond with interviewers with. But because of that, he's able to watch my Twitch streams. I was able to skip the entire technical portion of the interview because I already showed him what I could do.
Nice.
Yeah, and we just talked.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a different conversation, different feel. And then his boss, he didn't really like that I was coming from a coding boot camp. He does not like coding boot camp graduates. I had to convince him that I wasn't gonna. I knew what I needed to know, but yeah. For my first position, it was a really good position to get into. And then, what was it, like almost a year later, the company was sold and like almost everyone was fired.
Wow.
But I felt bad because like I was one of the few people left, but I literally was quitting on that day for a new company. And so I was about to put in my 2 weeks. They let everyone on the development team go besides like 3 people or something like that. And I said, I'm already leaving. It was like really, it was an awkward timing, but you don't realize, like that startup seems so steady. You don't realize how quickly like changes can happen. And that's why like I always recommend like focus on your skills. Just make sure you're not falling behind in your position.
Yeah, totally. It's so true. Like even companies that you think are stable, especially in these times, like you really never know what can happen. There's no replacement for keeping your skills sharp. I think that was almost the blessing in disguise for me with what happened at my first company, because since I didn't have to go through the interview process to get that job in the first place, I had this fear of like, if I ever lost this job, what if I can't make it through the interview process? Like what if I just got lucky and, I'm not actually going to be able to ever get something again. And then it happened and I basically just had to like face up to what I was afraid of. And I think that going through that process and then ultimately being successful, I think that gave me a lot of confidence compared to where I was at in my first job. And it just really, the importance of learning your skills is just, and keeping them sharp is so key. That's one reason why I even want to like create content and stuff on social media. It's like you're saying, you were able to, show that Twitch stream and an interview, and just being able to have the connections that you make from social media, and kind of that serves as almost its own sort of portfolio in a way that shows your passion and your skills and stuff. And you can never be too prepared, I've come to realize.
Definitely not. Absolutely. I think, a lot of people shy away, and I'll get to that question. I do see a couple in chat, but a lot of people shy away from like, they don't want to post anything on social media. And you don't have to create content, but if you like writing, like you could simply talk about a project that you built. You're going to
Yeah.
be talking about that project kind of on your resume. You're just highlighting like the key things about the project you think employers are going to care about, but like, it's not about like this huge curated method that like you have to go through. Like if you just want to talk into a mic, if you just want to record a video, if you just want to like write a LinkedIn post, try to see if like any of those speak to you, because you'd be surprised at how often and how much that attracts recruiters and companies. Like that's how I eventually got tired of recruiters, but in the beginning, like I wanted recruiters to come to me, and like whenever I'd make a LinkedIn post or something like that, talking about, maybe I forget what topics I talked about like 4 years ago, but the algorithm would approach recruiters and stuff like that, and they would add me on LinkedIn, and then they would reach out after like a few posts when like a certain position kind of fit my skills. So I I highly recommend like people network and build that content, but so many people are afraid of it. They really don't want to touch building content online.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's fair. I always tell people too, like, if you're like self-conscious about it or embarrassed about it or something, like you can post under a different name or a different, like, you can make your Twitter like at dev tips with a random profile picture that's not you, and you don't have to tell like your friends that this is your Twitter or something. If it's like something that makes you feel self-conscious, you can network with people, not not displaying exactly who you are if you don't want to. Sometimes that helps people gain confidence, I think.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of that. That's actually a pretty good strategy.
You brought up a point about recruiters too that I thought was interesting. Did you have a good experience working with recruiters? Or I feel like I get a lot of questions about tech recruiters.
Um, okay. Don't do this, but me telling you this story is going to kind of give you a good summary of what I think of a lot of recruiters. So I have recruiters. So once you get into the industry, you're you're gonna meet quite a few recruiters, and you're gonna get quite a few messages. And one thing you learn about is a lot of recruiters will bulk message people. They won't even look at your profile. They won't even look at any of your skills. And so, like I said, don't do this. I used to troll recruiters that used to do that. And I would send funny, silly messages back. I had fun with it. But there are a lot of recruiters, and I mean a lot, that don't. I mean, they're trying to fill a position, and without you having like a real conversation with the recruiter where they can kind of get your career goals and where you're going a little bit. But like in the beginning, expect recruiters to not really like have a lot of, what do I want to say, have a lot of investment into you in the beginning until you have that conversation. So sometimes that means you being more proactive, and even just having like a 15-minute chat with a recruiter. Maybe you could even learn something. Maybe you can get some tips. But I don't know. I think a lot of, like 90% of recruiters, you will do a better job going off on your own if you know where to look for positions. Because at the end of the day, that recruiter is going to be the reason why you get a certain salary. And if you are at least decent with negotiation, it really helps. Like if you had a previous career, if you're good with negotiation, in my opinion, you can negotiate way higher than a recruiter will negotiate for you. A lot of recruiters say, yeah, the more you make, the more I make. You got to look at specific clauses in like the contracts that motivate recruiters. Typically, they just want to fill the job, and it doesn't even need to be with the right person. Usually, like they have to fill it with someone that stays at the position like 3 to 6 months, even maybe up to a year. So they're trying to find the right pick. But I've argued with recruiters saying no, like I want a 35-40% bump in my salary. I'm not like, you don't need to know my salary, because you don't want a company to know your previous salary. That's none of their business.
True.
And you need to get, like, my recommendation is, like, when you're negotiating, when you're reaching out to companies, like, you want to have control over that range. You can give them a range, you shouldn't be giving them a solid number, and you can argue that depending on, like, health insurance benefits, all of that. But that's why I like giving a wide range to companies. And when you have a recruiter, typically they're trying to narrow a lot of that down. So I think recruiters do a worse job at negotiating for your benefit. That has been my experience. So I've kind of closed my conversations with some recruiters, but now there's a 10% of recruiters that, like, I personally think, like, I don't know, newer recruiters might not have the experience, but they seem to have they put the investment in you. I've had really good experiences with recruiters that, like, just got into the industry, really excited to help people, really excited to get them to the right position. And it's, it all depends. I did a podcast episode on this, but there are all sorts of different recruiters, and you have to figure out, like, I would flat out ask recruiters, what motivates you? Like, like, do you get paid for putting me in this position? What are the terms of that? Like, you should understand what motivates them so you can make sure that they are 100% in it for you and finding you the right position. So I think I have a bias against recruiters. Maybe you have a different perspective, but I always teach people to be skeptical, but use them to your advantage, just to get you positions that might not otherwise be available at, like, job forms or something like that.
Yeah, totally. I worked with one recruiter during my job search, and he was nice. Ultimately, the job I got was not through him, so I just kind of have, like, a neutral experience with it, I guess. But it's always interesting to hear. Some people really have some horror stories that I've heard.
Dang. What? Like what?
Like, just having really bad experiences with their recruiter and really feeling misrepresented by them and poor communication and stuff. So I don't know. I definitely get those messages, like you were saying, that they just, message people in bulk without really looking at their qualifications or anything like that. So yeah, it seems kind of hit or miss.
Yeah, that's definitely what it seems like to me. After watching, oh, hey, Greg, on Sarah's channel. After watching your 2 podcasts regarding New Camp, I'm strongly considering taking their courses this April. Do you have any other thoughts? Yeah, wow, it's been a while since I read this. You maybe haven't mentioned since those recordings. Considering taking these. No, I feel like, so what he's talking about, I invited the CEO of New Camp on to talk about it, and he was open enough for me to, like, challenge him and tell him why I think where I think his curriculum is failing. And that was a really fun conversation because he was super humble about it. I know he got tons of prospect students coming his way because he was so honest. He just gained trust with people. And I really wish Coding Bootcamp CEOs would be more transparent like that. Like, he deserves every student he gets from that.
That's good.
Yeah. But, like, extra tips, I don't think there's any extra tips. I just think, like I said, the big summary is supplement with New Camp. New Camp's really good. The price point's like $2,500, or maybe it's probably a different price, but it's really low. If you are self-taught and you just need a little guidance, I think New Camp is really good. It's going to provide you a lot of guidance. But as long as you're willing to supplement, you have the self-discipline for it, that's who I'd recommend go to New Camp.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I've looked at New Camp a little bit. Actually, I was considering at one point, like, being a TA for one of their cohorts or something for New Camp, and I ended up not going through with it. But from what I've seen, I totally agree. I think it would be an awesome supplement for self-taught development.
Hope so. Will you do a panel for Wozu? I have no idea who. Have you heard of the Coding Bootcamp Wozu?
No, I don't think I have.
I have no idea what that is. I'll look into it. Sure. Thanks for the recommendation. But I'm not going to be... I have episodes stacked for like 2 months, so it's probably going to be at least 2 months before any new ones get released that are recommended. What is a good strategy to apply for jobs? What do you think? What was your strategy? Well, what was your strategy after the liquidated startup?
Yeah. What was my strategy? Um, I don't know if I really had much of a strategy. I feel like I was just kind of like, I knew the technologies that I liked to work with, which was React at that point in time, and I knew, um, well, I guess what I ended up getting was not any of the things that I originally set out looking for, because the company I work for is actually based in Des Moines, Iowa, but I work remotely for them even besides the pandemic. I have just a remote role with them now, but I was looking for something in Chicago and something working with React. And I guess now that I think about it, neither of those things are really what I actually ended up doing. So I guess I was just kind of, I think the thing I was most looking for was a good company culture. And that I would say I did get, definitely. And my biggest thing, like, there were some places that I interviewed and I felt like I I felt like it was too intense. Like, I knew that I was going to be stressed working there, and I think the biggest thing I wanted was to not feel like pressured and stressed, and I wanted to really feel like I could grow and find mentorship at the company. So I think my strategy was just like, whenever I was interviewing, they're interviewing me, but also remembering that I'm interviewing them in a way. And, how do I, what's the vibe basically? And maybe that's vague, but like, that was kind of the way I thought of it, is like, let's do a vibe check.
What's their vibe?
My company now,
Yeah.
it's super chill, I would say, is the vibe. Like, I feel like my job is really low stress, and I feel like, I get to learn a lot of new areas. They put a lot of trust in me to like try new technologies, and they have people there that can help me through it when I'm stuck, or anything like that. So I feel like it's just a comfortable and chill environment.
Okay. Man,
That's what I like.
yeah, that's what I like too. That sounds really good. I always wonder because my third company was it felt like a lot of pressure because the CEO or the co-founder, basically, I remember having drinks with them. Everyone was at the bar, and he had mentioned that, like, because I'm a product owner and I own all the features that I build, like, if something goes down at 3 a.m., I better be ready. And I'm like, what does that
Oof.
mean?
Yeah, that's stressful.
Yeah, and I never had to like wake up that early to like do that, but it was always in the back of my mind, and it just like built up stress over and over. I'm like, when is it gonna happen?
Yeah.
Don't
Oh,
don't
yeah.
tell your developers that if it's never gonna happen. I was waiting. All right, so I think I scheduled this for about an hour. I think we have 11 minutes left, so feel free to get your questions in. But I was wanting to get into startups. Is there anything you all would suggest about the pros and cons?
Um, well, I would say, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a big list of pros and cons. I think pros, at least from the startup I worked in, and during that time, I really got a large taste of startup life and interacted with a lot of other different startups in the area and different events. And I feel like I have a decent sampling. The pros are definitely, it's a lot of fun. It's a fast-paced environment, and people tend to be really excited about and passionate about this new product that's coming out. And there's a sense of camaraderie, and usually pretty like casual environment. Like, people talk about, like, we had couches and bunk beds in the office type of thing. Like,
Bunk
it's
beds?
definitely, yeah, bunk beds, and like alcohol you can have anytime. Like, it's definitely just kind of like party vibes a little bit, which is a lot of fun. On the flip side, that's also a con, where, like, because everyone's so driven towards the product, like, there will be the 3 a.m. coding nights that you hear about, and like, it just kind of seeps into a lot of other parts of your life. And like, there's maybe less work life balance, I guess would be the thing to say there. And then also, it's a risk when you work at a startup, especially like just again, my startup disappeared, and that happens to a lot of people. And a lot of the people I worked with at that company had come from startups previously where the same thing had happened to them there. And some people, they just love startups. And I know some developers who they like spend their career going from startup to startup, like knowing that that's probably going to happen. And then they just join a different startup and do it again because it's just a lot of fun for them, which I totally get. But definitely be aware of that possibility if you're considering startups, I think.
That's first. I don't like the bunk beds. That tells me that people are staying there way too long. I love the couches. But that's like, you brought up a really good point. Like, there are some developers that love bouncing from startups, and like, you can, as long as you keep your skills up to date, you can get a job really quickly. And that's another thing. Like, it's almost impossible to break past that like entry barrier level, and then it becomes substantially easier to get a developer job. Like, there is a lack of qualified developers all around the world. So if you want to bounce from startup to startup, that's why I've never worried about that security, because I kept up to date with my skills. But it's right. You get into these environments that are like super fun, motivated. People are passionate about the product, and they get you passionate about the product. So it's not just another 9 to 5. I think that's me. I think you just described me. I can't. Could you see yourself working at like a larger company with like 1,000+ people?
At least so far in my career, I've kind of preferred the smaller companies. I mean, the company I'm at now is also smaller. It's not a startup, but it's not a big company by any means. And I think so far I feel like that suits me. I feel like I'm kind of a less corporate-y person, and I kind of like the coziness of a smaller team that you can get to know and stuff. But I don't know, maybe if I worked for a big company, I would be like, I would love it. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't worked at a large company either as a developer. I don't know. From what I hear, I mean, it is a different feel. I did an episode of like what it's like to work at Google, and I invited a couple of Google software engineers. So take a look at that. See how you like it. Any difference between Galvanize and Hack Reactor? Have you heard of Galvanize? I never heard of that.
It sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I don't know what Galvanize is. I've heard of it. I can't. I know I haven't done an episode on that. Sorry if someone asked us before, but based upon all of your interviews, what boot camps do you recommend? Okay, I have a perfect answer to this. I don't recommend. What Trevor said, bunk beds, pog, and you're really okay. So I don't recommend any specific coding boot camps. People try to get me to answer that question, and I can spend an hour, at a Zoom call with someone, and it like, my answer always ends up with it all depends. And there's a reason for that, because you need to own the decisions that you make. And I think aspiring developers, just people in general, are scared to do that. And I think if you choose a coding bootcamp that doesn't teach you everything that you need to be competitive in the job market, then it's up to you to supplement that. And that's not a bad thing. It just means that like, you, as a developer, if you want to be successful, you have to learn how to do that. So, like, you have to make the decision on your own. I'm not going to make it for you. That's why I haven't like really honed in on these are like top coding boot camps and these are like, low tier coding boot camps, because you have to make the decision, you have to make the mistake, and you have to own it. And I'm really careful about that in my mentorship sessions too. A lot of people like want straight up answers, and I don't think it's a good idea for me to give you them. So I know it's probably not the answer you were looking for, but the good thing about that is, whatever you do choose, it's like you can get past that. It's just like one way to becoming a developer, and if you have to supplement a little bit, you have to supplement.
Yeah, I have the same feeling. I try to shy away from recommending one boot camp over all others, because people have such varying experiences and situations. And yeah, I know everybody always wants to know which one is it.
They do. Yeah, I know you're paying a lot of money for it, but they're different. What I like to try to get people to picture as like, they're just different coding boot camps. Like, what I would even do is just like, reach out, look at course report. You can look at reviews, and even reach out to graduates on LinkedIn. Ask about their experiences. Like, that's the whole point of my episodes, is to bring 3 people on to share it. But at the end of the day, it's just 3 people. Like, you really should still take that with a grain of salt, and you sometimes just have to take a chance. And I know it's a lot of money. It's not an easy decision, but I think that's part of the process of like you growing as a person and as a developer. How much did you feel like you learned? Okay, we got a few minutes left. How much did you feel like you learned just from the bootcamp classes? Like, I don't feel like I'm retaining very much. That's a good question. I didn't feel like I was retaining much until afterwards when I started applying it to personal projects. I felt like, especially data structures and algorithms, I feel like I fell so far behind with that. And like, even just my React knowledge, stuff like that. Yeah, it didn't like click for me until after the coding bootcamp.
I agree. I think, especially for me, I was in kind of and maybe this was somewhat similar to your situation too, but I was in a situation where I had so little time to actually do the assignments for boot camp, because I was working 3 jobs while I was doing the coding boot camp, and it was an on-site boot camp, and I didn't have a car, so I had a long train ride both ways, late at night, like up early the next morning to go to work. So like, other people were spending, I think they recommended like 20 or 30 hours a week for the coursework, and other people in the boot camp were spending closer to that amount of time on the assignments. And I had like 5 to 10 hours a week max to complete the homework assignment, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend, but I needed to work all those jobs at that point. And so I definitely don't think that I retained or felt like I was retaining as much as I could have been, especially in the second half of the boot camp when we started to really get into like more of the full stack stuff. I was like, oh man, like this is hard, and it definitely didn't feel like it was sticking until I got into that first job and I was able to like work on a product for a long period of time in the same, like here we are in React and Node, just working on this every day, all day. And then it starts to be like, oh, the pieces are coming together.
I think you have someone spamming in your chat.
Oh no.
But that's a really good point. I think maybe like the best, because a lot of people come with imposter syndrome. I think for your own sanity, you really just have to wait till you get that job to realize like you actually can do it. I think the message is, I think people are way too hard on themselves and they feel like they're not retaining it. They're not good enough. The coding bootcamp's not good enough. Yeah, give it time. You need to give it a lot of time for things to click and for that confidence to build.
Yeah, it's a 3 or even 3 month, I guess. Mine was 6 month, but 3 month or 6 month program is like, it's not enough time really to like feel fully confident as a developer. So don't be too hard on yourself. I agree.
Absolutely. All right, maybe we can answer like one more quick question and we'll end with that. You pick.
Let's see what we've got here. How do you know what languages to stay on top of as technology progresses? I think that's a good question. Do you have any thoughts?
So here's what I recommend. Ultimately, the question probably stems from you wanting to be marketable. And so with that assumption, I would actually like just build out a giant spreadsheet for whatever like large city that's near you or whatever area you're applying to. Go through all the job postings and just tally the stack that's being listed, tally the technologies that's being listed. And that'll give you a better idea of like, I would even do that once every few months. And that'll give you a better idea of what you probably should be staying up to date with if the goal is marketability, if the goal is keeping up with technologies that companies are actually using. And what that'll help you do, it'll help you be careful of like having this like, new shiny toy syndrome with all these new frameworks coming out. And I think you need to be careful about like trying to learn every new thing, because trust me, your mind's already going to be worn keeping up with technologies as it is. So, that's my recommendation, and that's where I would focus on. What about you?
Yeah, the shiny toy syndrome that's even a struggle for me. I'm like, oh, this sounds so cool and I want to learn it. And I think what I learned from my interview process was that knowing a few things really well is better than knowing a lot of things a little bit. And I feel like I tried to, going into my interviews, I tried to like study everything. I'm like, what are they gonna, like, they might ask me this, they might ask me this, and I tried to like study everything about every technology I knew. And I think I would have been better off, like, because most interviewers, at least that I had, they were like, what language do you feel most comfortable just like showing us this in? Like, how would you do this, like the way that you feel most comfortable? And I'm like, if I would have just like picked one thing and like really done a deep dive, I feel like I could have demonstrated a deeper understanding, rather than being like shallow in a lot of areas, if that makes sense.
That's really good advice. Absolutely. You'll learn that you make a lot more money from specializing too, rather than being a jack of all trades. That's my personal opinion, especially as a developer going into a senior developer. But I don't know. Yeah, I guess like really your priority was specialization, get really good at something to showcase. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I think so. Like whatever you feel most confident in or like the most, like, not feeling like you have to learn every other new thing that comes out to be relevant, and make sure that you're up to date with what's new in your special things, if that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense. All right, cool. Well, everyone, thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. I definitely want to give you a chance to shout out, but this is my friend Sarah. Invited her on. Hopefully, everyone enjoyed this live chat. I'll let her shout herself out, so you can definitely go subscribe to her channel because she does a lot of tech videos. But as always, if you ever want to follow me, it's just youtube.com/DonTheDeveloper. What about you, Sarah?
Yes. If you want to check out my videos, I've been trying to make them more consistently, in this new year than I was. It's just, my channel is Sarah A. Feel free to check it out. And thank you so much for having me on too. It's been really fun.
Yeah, likewise. I think this dual live stream was kind of a fun trial, at least.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming on. If you wouldn't mind, I just have one more question after this. But as far as this live chat goes, thanks for coming on. This was fun. Like I said, go follow her. But yeah, I guess that's it. I'm really terrible with my outros. You do an outro for us.
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming, and maybe we'll do another one sometime. Appreciate it. See you guys.